Excellent. All right. Let's see. Okay. Hopefully the summer is over and we can move on to fall. To fall, yeah. No, it was hot summer.
It's still hot.
It still is, yeah. We get like couple of like nice days. Now I see you did get some color. My goodness, you're like you could pass as an African American. Seriously, wow.
I'm darker than any of my black friends.
Seriously,
Yeah.
that's awesome. Now you can crack black jokes. It's like.
Yeah. And Chase was like, "You got a full moon."
Oh.
His budge,
Oh. Well, okay. We can show it on the camera, like. All right. So, Josh, we ready? All right. Let's start with, as usual, with our prayer of presence to kind of calm down, just soak up into the presence of God and our presence with no thoughts, with no requests, with no nothing. Just kind of phase out whatever is in your mind, clear your, okay, I'll let you clear your mouths. And then we're going to ask God for His presence, and then we're going to start digging into this topic. Last week we were talking about the whole idea of 9 to 5 spirituality, like every day. Every day we go through a grind, and very often God is on the fringes of it just because we have this idea of a professional. Hello. But the whole concept that this world presents to us in actual 9 to 5 in our everyday life is this: it's fear. We're constantly bombarded with fear. So I would like us today to engage a little bit and discuss what fear is all about. Where does it come from? Why do we allow it to take over us? And how can we get out of it? So, prayer of presence. Again, let's start with it. So, clear your mind. Just focus on you being here. Focus on God being present here, and shut up, like inside of your head. Just shut up. Allow God to be here with you, hug you, and let's start with that. Let's take a minute for that. Our Father, this morning we come here to engage with you and to receive the Spirit from you to help us understand how to not engage in the fear that this world shoves down our throats. So clear our minds, help us see where we are at, and help us see how to get a life that will be more filled with you and less filled with fear. Amen. Right. Let's start with this. Now, the concept of everyday spirituality revolves around the idea that your daily grind, whatever it is it work, is it school, is it family, wherever you are in life, should be always a backdrop for the presence of God. Not that God should be a backdrop for it. So essentially the idea is that spirituality is something you live out in your daily life. It doesn't pop out here occasionally and there, but it's a reflection of literally everything you do, you think, you desire, and so on. And it's pretty cool over here because like Paul is writing this to Timothy. Timothy was a teenage pastor. He was a young kid who barely embraced the whole concept of letting go of his Jewish tradition and engaging with this new thing about Jesus. And he was moved to share that with everybody else, but he was a kid, you know, and he was very often, he was looked down on by the church. So Paul encourages him all the time, no, don't you worry about that. Don't you let anybody look down on you because you're young. No. You have to be an example in this and this and this. And as a teenager, he was easy to get scared, I would think. So Paul tells him, you know, God gave us a spirit, not of fear, but of power and love and self-control. Now, we're going to go back to this verse a little bit later, at the end of the study. But why am I putting it on the screen right now? Is because I want you guys to focus today on the one thing. As we go through this study, you might come to realize that you have way more fear engaging in your life than you think you do have. Very often, a lot of these fears, we take them for granted. Oh, that's normal. That's part of adult life, you know? But it's not. So I want you to just think about, as you're discovering, like, okay, yeah, I'm more afraid of this than I thought about it. Where is the other side of the spirit? God gives. God does not give the spirit of fear, which means when you're afraid, that doesn't come from Him. But the power, love, and self-control. 3 amazingly cool things that makes you amazing person. You know, to be with, to work with, to study with, to whatever you do in your 9 to 5. Everybody would rather have somebody with power, love, and self-control than somebody with a spirit of fear. So have that in mind. Now, what I would like us to do right now, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, let's do this. Let's take 5 minutes. I want us to discuss children's fears versus our fears. I want us to take 5 minutes and just take a little bit of introspection. So, what are the fears that usually label fears that children have? And then what are the fears that we have? Laura, 3 of you guys can kind of turn around, take 5 minutes, and Laura's going to guide over there, and 3 of us can get together. And I would like us, oops, sorry, Josh. Wow. So I don't know if the camera is going to switch or not, but probably not. But anyways, you guys, if you're watching online, you can listen to a discussion through the microphones. So this is what I would like us to talk about. So let's start with this. So first of all of us deal with kids here and there, or we had experience. We still remember our own childhood stuff, but have you ever babysat anyone? No. No? God bless you, you're lucky. Oh my goodness. One, yes. But what are kids afraid of?
The dark.
Dark, yeah.
Big and scary. Anything that's big and scary.
Anything that's big and scary.
Yeah.
Anything that's loud.
Yeah.
And that's why yelling works so good with kids. My goodness. I think that was my favorite thing as youth pastor, just yelling. It worked so well. Okay, yelling with love.
Mom and Dad.
Mom and Dad.
Yeah.
What makes mom, why?
The punishment.
Yeah.
Okay, somebody who can inflict pain. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. What else? What? Okay, let's put it this way. What fear revolves around the dark?
Monsters.
Monsters. Again, something big and scary. Yeah.
The unknown, to be honest, because you don't know what's in there.
Unknown, yeah. You look at the dark, you see nothing. You don't know what's in there. Something makes a noise, and yeah, and then the imagination kicks in. Yeah. Okay, so what about parents? You know your parents love you. You know. Okay. Well, that is a very general statement. You know, a lot of parents don't know how to express their love. That's yeah. But what fear? What? How realistic is fear of parents? Like, how objective is fear of parents?
Not really.
Why not?
Because their intentions are pure.
Okay.
I think like the kids think like because they don't understand why their parents are getting mad, so it's kind of just like, oh, they're getting mad just to make me feel like sad or bring me down or whatever, and that's their perspective.
Okay. Okay.
So it's just kind of like understanding the root.
Okay.
Yeah. And
So-
also, like, kids also know that even if they're in danger, their parents are always going to be there.
Mhm.
So it's like they're only afraid of them in certain things, but not everything.
So the fear of parents is not really objective, just as the fear of dark is not really objective. Just as the fear of big and scary stuff is not necessarily objective, it's something that their perception, hey dog, it's something that their perception, actually lack of ability to properly interpret what they perceive, brings them to feel fear about stuff. Now let's talk about adult fears. Okay, what do adults fear of? Like we're not afraid of dark anymore. We're not afraid of parents anymore. We're not afraid of big scary stuff anymore. What are we afraid of?
Sustainability.
Sustainability. Okay.
I want to say phobias. That's one thing we're definitely afraid of.
Huh?
Phobias.
Like what phobias?
Like when people are like scared of the water,
Uh-huh.
or scared of heights,
So
or
it's a-
like scared of spiders, like just like things like that.
Okay, that's true. Yeah, you have a lot of. I'm afraid of dog hair.
Even not afraid of dog hair.
Thank you. Okay. When you say sustainability, what do you mean?
Like, do we know that we can keep this going? Like, are we going to be safe? Are we going to be financially secure
Okay. Okay.
a year from now, 2 years from now, whatever the case is?
So where does this fear stem from?
Kind of like the unknown. Kind of the same thing. Like you don't know if it's gonna like, be that way forever.
So this would be like a proverbial dark. You see, so the kids are afraid of dark. It's a very simple version of the fear that you're describing, right? This is just a complex version of the same thing, right? Phobias. Are they justifiable? Like fear of spiders, is it justifiable? Is it objective?
It depends on the spider.
Okay, okay, like a big, ugly, hairy spider shows up, everybody freaks out, and then somebody who knows that is just regular, how they call it, that red spin tarantula, you just crawl on your hands, and it's like a pet. You can even cuddle it. Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of people with like phobias of dogs, but it's probably because of the something that happened.
So there was a bad experience that causes now irrational fear of every single dog. So to what extent are adult fears justifiable?
I don't know.
Are they even justifiable? My idea with this question is this. When I was thinking about this, when I was kind of putting this stuff down and trying to think about like how to introduce fear, I realized that actually between kids and adults, the fear does not change its source. It changes its shape, but the source is still the same. And the source is still imaginary. Like kids are afraid of the dark because something scary could be over there. Adults are afraid of next fiscal year because some scary recession could be over there. But the fear essentially is the same, and the source is the same. Fear of unknown, unsuspected, big and scary. That could hurt me. Maybe it's not gonna spank me, but it's gonna make me have to sell my car and switch to something cheaper, or maybe move into a smaller apartment because I can afford it, and so on. And I had plans for this year, and now the plans are falling through, and so on. And we are developing this fear. So my idea was, and tell me if you agree or not, but whether kids or adults, most of our fears are very much imaginary because of lack of ability to interpret what we perceive from the world.
Yeah.
Does it make sense?
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
All right. Psst. One more minute. Yeah, because we're done. So. I should have done that sooner. Okay.
But that does make sense though, because I mean, with a phobia, it's not really like you're not really scared of like that spider presents or like that dog presents, but it's like what could happen.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like the improbability of like anything that could happen.
There is a potential that the dog could chase you and bite you, especially Chihuahua.
Some of them are really
There's-
nice. Gotta be nice to them.
But like Jasmina has a fear of dogs, fairly under control, but she gets intimidated the moment dogs come to her, and for whatever reason, dogs love her. Like that's kind of the weird. Like we were walking down that was like recently. We were walking down the street, and there is a guy playing fetch with a dog. And he tosses the ball towards us, and the dog picks up the ball, and he comes to Jasmina, and he's passing her the ball. And she's like nothing, just toss it back, you know. It was kind of weird, but that's not one case. Like she's just like that, and she doesn't really know why.
I think dogs can sense that, and they're like, "Hey, I'm friendly."
I'm chill, yeah.
I'm friendly. Like you're okay.
Right. We are. You guys ready?
1 second.
Okay.
Okay, so yes and no. For me, it's like if I want to go to college, but I'm afraid that I'm not being smart enough, and I feel like that my fear is holding me back from what I could have done.
Okay, we have some comments from online. I'm going to share that. Okay, so let me see. Oh, Jenny. So Jenny is watching online. She's also commenting some of the stuff. So we were talking about children's fears and our fears and relation between them. Bless you. That was close. So one of the things that Jenny says, she says, I would say that some kids aren't scared of something until they have experience with the bad consequences. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, a lot of kids are just curious. And essentially, so the newborns and toddlers are the only things that they are instinctively afraid. And again, this is a lot of scientific studies confirm this. There are two things that babies are instinctively afraid. That is heights and loud noises. Those are the only things that are going to kind of make them stress out. Nothing else, like the movement or the light and dark, none of that stuff is going to affect them, but awareness of a height and awareness of a loud noise. Everything else, all other fears that children accumulate through their childhood are being adopted. Now, let's talk a little bit about what we discussed. So, if you don't mind sharing real quick, the roundup of what you guys talked about. So what are kids' fears and why do kids have them?
Just, darkness and scary things and being left alone by parents going home to work, and that they're afraid of them because of the unknown, and lack of trust if it's good, like the parents are going to return. Lack of trust if things are going to be okay.
Okay. Okay, all right. Another thing that we could add up, as much as parents are concerned, is like kids are also afraid of parents as well on occasions because of the punishment that parents are able to afflict. You know, but very often kids have this intimidation from parents, not because they're constantly being punished, but because occasionally it might happen in the future, but still the fear is there. Now, to what extent did you guys discuss that? Are these fears rational?
We didn't discuss that.
Okay,
Or just
all right. So tell me about adult fears. What was your conclusion on adult fears?
with adult fears was like heights and being successful for the future and moving water. And what's the difference would be that knowledge. That over time you start either developing or losing fears. Because once we have an experience with something, either it's going to help us overcome that fear or it's going to make that fear grow.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. One thing that we talked about is in the context of adult fears that they are very much similar, almost identical to children's fears. Because like kids are afraid of the dark because there is something that could be something scary and unknown over there that could hurt them. And adults are afraid of a possible dark future with a recession coming up, or you know, how am I going to pay my bills and so on. So the fear is essentially the same. And both of these fears are not necessarily objective. Now you look at your closet that you used to be afraid of because there is a monster there, and now you're not afraid. You know there is nothing there. And you know that there will be no monster over there. But then you log into your online banking and there is a monster over there. Oh my goodness. You know? So, the form of the source of fear might have changed, but the actual source of it is not. The source of the fear comes out of here. The fear that we experience, think about your fears right now. A lot of them stem not out of an actual reason to be afraid, but me thinking that this could be something that could hurt me. A few years back, I had an interesting talk with one of our church members. She was diagnosed with stage 3 cancer. She's fine, she's okay, everything is well. And she's a nurse, so she was not concerned with her health. I mean, she was concerned for her health, but she was not afraid of where she was health-wise. Most people freak out. You know, hey, you have stage 3 cancer. I'm going to die. You know, that's the first thing that crosses your mind. That didn't cross her mind. She was actually angry with why God brought her to this situation. A few months later, when she was free and clear from her cancer, she had a testimony in the church telling everybody, you know, how big of a blessing this actually was. God turned this into a blessing. But for me, it was interesting talking to her about the actual health state. She was, yeah, that's fine. Yeah. I mean, because she's a nurse and she knows that this is manageable. So something that would be a death threat to me, I would freak out on the news like that. She was like, yeah, that's fine. Because of knowledge, you know, because she understands what's happening. Fears that we deal with stem from me not understanding what's happening and not knowing where is this taking me. So, with this in mind, let's talk about effects of fear. So, do you have to take that? Okay, all right. Now, this verse is interesting. It might sound weird, but I'll try to explain it. So, Proverbs 24:10. If you faint in the day of adversity, your strength is small. It kind of sounds like, you know, but in the context of Proverbs in general, what he's trying to say is, when the going gets tough and you fail, everything you are shrinks down. Your self-esteem, your ability to fix stuff, you just kind of, you will collapse when the going gets tough and you don't get going. And that's what fear does to us. We collapse because of fear. Tell me something, let's talk about this. I want to hear your personal experience. So, when it comes to your body, how does fear affect you? When you're afraid, when you're anxious, when you're stressed out, when you're like, ah, how does that affect your body?
Oh, it goes into affect. Just like weakness.
Weakness,
I was gonna say it goes into a fight or flight mode.
fight or flight mode, yeah.
It doesn't understand.
How does a fight or flight mode look like?
Like, kind of
Like when you're at work, when you're in school, how does it actually look like? You're about to take an exam and you know that you're not freaking ready.
actually a perfect example of this because
Uh-huh.
mine is fight, flight, or freeze.
Uh-huh.
And in my instance, if I have someone who is a danger, a human, one of my clients is presenting a danger to me, either I do one of three. The fight would be like I stand
Strangle
up for
him?
myself,
Oh.
and I would be like, hey, the session is ending. Thank you for coming. They will see you up front. Fear would be just me going like, hey, I'm gonna go to the bathroom, and then just have someone else deal with it because I am too scared to deal with it myself. And then freeze would be doing absolutely nothing and just letting that situation happen in front of me, but not being able to do anything about it.
Okay, okay. All right. Fear has tremendously strong physical effect on our bodies. Like just some of the basic stuff, like it can cause a cardiovascular damage because if you keep yourself in a constant state of your heart having to pump like crazy, it's going to affect it. Gastrointestinal problems. Anybody has an ulcer? Ever had to deal with an ulcer? Yeah. And that is, again, ulcer is also caused with too much acid being produced because your body is getting ready to process energy that it needs, and it just burns you. Accelerated aging, premature death. Okay, that's kind of extreme. But, but it's well known that at the times of war, people who are not engaged in war, but they're on sidelines, they are aging faster. And it's just horrible. Like if you, you can find that on YouTube, like the slideshows of pictures of young recruits in 1941, and then pictures of them in 1945. So they were 18, 17, 18, 19 when they enrolled, and they were like 23, 24 when they were discharged from the World War II. You look at pictures like side by side, it looks like he's 20 years older. Like it's horrible when you look at the effects of fear that have. How does fear affect your memory?
Ooh, you have no memory.
You have no memory. Think about it. How many times it happens to you that you are driving to work and you completely don't remember the drive? Every day. Now, why is that happening? Because your mind is not present during that drive. Your mind is probably either at work or your mind is hopes that this work is going to end real soon and you can go back out of it, you know? But anytime you experience this like short-term memory loss or just not being present, that is fear from whatever is coming kicking in. Long-term memories are affected by fear as well, especially when you are going through like a longer process of some traumatic process. Either you're going through a health issue that you're dealing with, or you're going through a loss, you're going through a relationship hardships, you're going through a job transition, whatever it is. Very often what happens is, like a few months down the road, people ask you, hey, how was your summer? How was that time, you know, when you had to deal with this stuff? You will remember very little things. They're just not there. They're not imprinted in your brain because you were constantly under stress and your mind was focused on that to the point where it didn't imprint any memories of it. Now, this is very interesting. So, to someone in chronic fear, the world looks scary, and their memories confirm that. This is what happens to a lot of conspiracy theorists. It's so interesting, like, if you know somebody who is like an avid conspiracy theorist, very often, if they're not mindful, they very easily fall into this sense that everything around us is dark. Because that's what they read about, that's how they see the world, and that's what they remember from their own world. And now today, looking back, like, yeah, this place is a horrible place. It's not that bad. I mean, there is a lot of stuff that is bad, but not all of it, far from it, you know? And I know this because I was there a couple of years back, especially when Chris and I were hanging out more together, like sharing all of the conspiracies that we were kind of going through. It was, no, there was like a point of like, this world sucks. Now I see it's not as close as bad, you know, that there is as much good in this world as there is bad, you know. There is like, I believe that the powers of good and bad are still battling, and there is still a balance between it, and I see that now. But then I didn't. And then on top of it, my world at that time was not at a great state. So brain processing, inability to regulate emotions. How do you emotionally react when you're afraid, when you're stressed out and anxious? Do you have the outbursts that you regret later? Do you have the emotional numbness when you should be engaging? You know that's like, I think that's worse than the outbursts. You know, when you're over there with friends, family, doing something that should be relaxing and nice, and you're just numb. You're just like, you know, you don't feel their joy. You don't feel the birthday, the 5th birthday of your niece, because you're just overwhelmed with your stress. Inability to read nonverbal cues. Have you ever been there? Like when everybody seems intimidating, when everybody seems threatening. You know, people say something and you're like, what do you mean? What are you telling me? And look, nothing. Ever been there? Where everything is interpreted as a threat. Mental health, fatigue, clinical depression, PTSD. All of us have PTSD. From very mild to very extreme levels. But all of us have some form of PTSD because this world kind of does that to us. And when it's untreated, and in most cases, in us like common mortals, it's untreated, it stays there, and it creates what we were talking about also, fears. It creates in adults phobias. Like for example, dog attacked you when you were 13, bit you quite good, and it was bleeding. Hey, what's up? And now there is a PTSD left from that, you know? And it was never treated. Never ever somebody told you, okay, let's go see another dog. Let's play with this dog. Let's see that not all dogs are bad, but you develop a phobia from all the dogs after being bitten. Or like spiders. You guys like spiders? Yeah. I'll get you a spider. You like spiders? Okay, how about snakes?
I love snakes.
Rattlesnakes.
I will be specific though. I like jumping spiders.
Oh, they're so cute and
so
tiny.
cute.
I squish them.
See, there's such a different relation to jumping spiders. But usually we develop this kind of PTSD in our either early upbringing or whenever, and then when it's untreated, like something silly as a fear of spider, okay, if you see a black spider with a cross on it, okay, freaking black widow, let's kill it or get rid of it, you know. But all these other, you know those big spiders, actually with those, a small spider with those big legs. Yeah. They're like cool. Like, I mean, they're absolutely nothing. You just grab it, take it, put it away, whatever. I usually try to leave them because I know that they pick up the flies and the mosquitoes if they're around. But yeah, that's the face. Yeah, you know, like PTSD untreated, and this is just a silly thing. Like another PTSD that is untreated is fear of authority. that we develop. It starts with our parents. It very often picks up in our educational period, elementary school, high school. And very often, a lot of people have unjustifiable fear of authorities. Fear of police officers. And then on top of it, like in the last couple of years, there was a lot of this defund the police movements everywhere that actually caused a lot of mess in the places where they actually defunded the police. But the problem was that there are always bad apples in a bowl, but not all of them are bad. But untreated PTSD gets people to act irrationally. Adults, I'm not talking about kids anymore. Us, we act irrationally because we allow fear to become a norm. Makes sense? Now, solutions. I would like us to, we're going to read some, actually, yeah. Did we have any more? Oh, you didn't. I think we had a whole bunch of, yeah, you can go through those. We went through that, all that. All right. So, yep, this is the one. Yeah. All right. Now, God has solutions for fear. But before that, we need to understand the presence of fear in our lives. We need to kind of scan our life and embrace it. Yes, I'm afraid of the future. Yes, I'm afraid where is next year going to take me because I have this to take care of, this to take care of. Yeah, I'm afraid how is my health going to pan out with all of these things that I'm dealing with. Yeah, I'm afraid of what's going to be with my relationship because we keep going in different directions and so on. And the moment we don't like saying that we are afraid. How do you feel when you say I'm afraid of something? Like a sissy. Okay.
I was going to say vulnerable.
Wonderful. You feel wonderful?
No, vulnerable.
Oh, vulnerable. I was like, okay. Feel vulnerable. Yeah, there is. You see, these are two levels, and that is like guy's brain and male brain and female brain. No, we don't want to say we're afraid because no, I can deal with it. I can deal with it, you know. But I'm not going to admit I'm afraid because I don't want to be afraid with these things that I'm dealing with, even though I am. But if you don't admit that you're afraid, you can't really face the fear. Vulnerability is very dangerous in our world, where we are all tightly knit into this society, and the moment you express some kind of vulnerability, what is the next thing that's going to happen? Somebody is going to exploit that. So we make sure that our vulnerabilities are well protected even from ourselves. So step number one that I encourage you this week to kind of contemplate on, scan your life and just be honest. My job is causing me stress and anxiety. I really don't want to be there. I'm afraid of the time that I have to spend there. Or my family, or these classes that I have to take, or whatever it is. But look at your life, identify your fears. Because if you don't identify them, things that we're about to be talking about are not going to be much helpful. Because what we talk about here today needs to be applied by you to your fears. You don't acknowledge them, you're screwed. So this is what we're going to do now. We're going to read 3 Bible verses, and then we're going to split in two groups again, and we're going to take 5 minutes. Let's make it 6 minutes. 2 minutes per Bible verse to just quickly go over it and get an idea of how do you feel about the three solutions that God has for us. So number one is going to be God's bedtime stories. I saw the Lord and he answered me and he delivered me from all my fears. Psalm 34:4. Next one. Older sibling syndrome. Strengthen the weak hands and make firm the feeble knees. Say to those who have an anxious heart, be strong, fear not. Behold, your God will come with vengeance, with the recompense of God. He will come and save you. And the third one, fearless by design. That is the one that we started with. For God gave us a spirit not of fear, but of power and love and self-control. So these two verses, this is what I would like us to do right now. Again, three of you, and there's going to be four of us over here, come up with one sentence that explains the solutions of these three verses that we just read that God has for your fears. So one sentence that will just explain the solution that God has. Let's take 2 minutes per question, okay? So it's going to be Psalm 34:4, Isaiah 35:3 and 4, and 2 Timothy 1:7. So let's take 6 minutes now. You guys who are online, you can hear us. So the first solution that God has is this, as I tell God's bedtime stories. I had it, and that was like, when kids are afraid.
Let me ask.
You babysit,
Can you just give us a summary? What are we supposed to do again?
So, so these three Bible verses are three solutions for our fears. I would like you to come up with one sentence that describes the solution, each of these three solutions.
For all three?
Yes, three sentences, one sentence per verse, that describes what the solution is.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
So, when I was babysitting, that was like one of the things that always, like, you want to put them to sleep, tell them something like nice, cute, kind and so on. So when the Bible says, and this is David talking about the time when he wrote the Psalm, is when he was in exile, when Saul wanted to kill him. So he's like, he has his gang, and he's robbing around and doing all this kind of stuff. And he's writing this song. He says, I sought the Lord, and answered me. And he delivered me from all my fears.
So second interpret it like how we see that sentence.
As a solution.
Okay, so with this one,
Going back to what you were talking about earlier, keeping your mind
and reliable.
not thinking weird.
You guys are really
Yeah.
Yeah, those two.
It's like what this person's talking about. It'll keep your
It's strict because it's
mind
strict.
busy because like this is the fact of the person.
Okay.
What God has for you. So like keep your mind focused on searching for more ways that
We're ready with
the
All right. Okay, let's make a sentence.
We're ready? Yeah.
How do you understand? How do you guys understand this? Huh? Oh, yeah, okay. Okay, we gotta keep it up. Yeah.
I know, that sounds like
Well, I think it's just that to me, it's more like I talked about
Gonna be, let's say, we're celebrating. I used to start going to the gym and I'm like, okay, this is great, what to do next. I would like to have some calls to
that's a good response.
Okay.
So,
So let's make a
and
sentence.
just preparing yourself. Training, that's good.
deliberately didn't want to think about this, so I would leave it for the discussion. This one will not hold you up. So, what happens
It's
to
too fast for me. See what they say in one times versus four times.
I think I'm really up.
Yeah.
Okay, let's make it,
One of them is that
no, so we know that God is the soul. Your fears, you can work to others and help them out with their fears.
him who strengthens me.
Make sense? Okay, the last one, fearless by design. God gave us a
Through
spirit
Christ.
of fear, but power and love and self-control.
So you already gave me this.
I know I said
That's
that.
Yeah. Anything that's, any spirit of fear is not, I just think that's what it is.
So, fear of
Yeah, I
faith,
can do all
that
things
is not
through
Christ.
Christ, which
So,
strengthens me.
no.
Well, how would you separate the difference between anxiety and fear? Because I think anxiety is kind of a place where when you have anxiety, you have a specific type of fear, it helps you not fall into different traps.
So
So in a way,
I'm gonna bring that up, so we can hear, like, what other people. Cool. 6 minutes expired long ago.
Okay, do you guys have the sentences? So let's start with the first time. So I saw the Lord and He answered me and He delivered me from all my fears.
we came up with that we're not alone and we have someone we can rely on.
Okay. I did not write down the stuff that we were talking about. What was the first one? I suck. Yeah, I know.
well, I think we said like, we kept our minds not here, like, at least that's what I was saying.
Say again.
Like, we were not focused on things here, we were focused on.
Oh
finding
yes,
out.
yeah, that's right.
Like
Yeah.
past your fear.
I don't remember. I should. I thought I'm gonna remember it. Dang it. Okay, Laura. Okay, when you come back, we can hear the.
Second and third.
So the second one.
Okay.
Say to those who have the anxious heart, be strong, fear not. Behold, you're all coming with vengeance. What was the sentence?
That we're training and God has our back.
Okay, good. We had it. Know that God is going to solve your fears and then go help others with their fears. Okay, and the last one, fearless design. For God gave us a spirit not to fear, but to power and love and self-control.
Fear is not natural for us. I really like that, and that we are made with power, love, and self-control.
Okay. We're just kind of going back to the beginning of the talk where when you're afraid, that's not from God. So look up to God to find the spirit of power and love and self-control. Okay, now let's take a little bit of time talking about these things. So there are 3 solutions here, and there was more. I probably found like a dozen of verses that could be really cool used as solutions for our fears. But these 3 were most impactful for me because it felt like these are the biggest struggles that we deal as adults in our adult lives. And so when we talk about God's bedtime stories are for kids, right? We tell kids bedtime stories. Why? Because you want to kind of tuck them into safety and cuddleness and everything else so they can fall asleep and sleep peacefully. Now, what are the bedtime stories that we as adults need to hear? Tell me some of the bedtime stories that make you sleep better.
You're gonna be a millionaire.
Tomorrow's Saturday.
Huh?
Yeah, tomorrow's Saturday. Not like a Monday. Yeah.
You get to rest.
Yeah. Okay. What else? What else are the bedtime stories that calm you down? What can God, okay, let's put it this way. What is the best bedtime story that God can tell you to not just calm you down for the night, but to calm you down in general?
God's got this.
Say it again?
God's got this.
God's got this. Okay.
Surrender to me.
Okay. Call for surrender.
That no matter what, he's always going to be there.
No matter what, God is going to be there.
I feel like he's in control, and us trying to be in control is just making us work 10 times harder when we don't have to.
I was about to say a very similar thing. Because that's my struggle, that's my fear. Like, I feel that a lot of things depend on me, and if from one perspective they do. Like what's happening over here, a lot depends on me and how I do things. But on the other hand, he's in control. Like this is not mine. The ministry belongs to him, and I'm foolish and arrogant enough to think that depends on me. You know, and that is my nightmare. You know, and I need to hear a bedtime story that reminds me, no, God's work, it's God's work. You know, I'm just one of the foremans in there, you know, but it's not my work, it's his work. And anytime I remember that, okay, yeah, we'll be fine. I don't have to panic, no panic. But you see, these are the things that really help us. These God's bedtime stories is what really makes our fears shrink and even go away. Like, I mean, I saw the Lord and he answered me and he delivered me from all my fears. Now, this is immense because like David was in a pretty dire situation when he wrote this. But again, the awareness of these things where he is not just kind of pep talking himself to sleep, but awareness that this is real. You know, it's real that you are God's child. It's real that he cares for you more than you care for yourself. It's real that he wants to be weaved into every single aspect of your life and make it better. Like these things are real. The reason we fail to see that is because sometimes we just exclude him because we forget. Sometimes we want to do it on our own, ourselves, because we are so powerful and mighty and able. Sometimes we are ashamed because we failed to ask for help. And we already asked and then we failed. I don't want to ask, it's not a spider. You know? But go back to God's bedtime stories every single day, because they make your fears shrink so fast. And on top of it, just think of your experience. How many times God proved you that he's got it? How many times in your life he showed you, yeah, I got it. Yeah. I mean, I know all of you could share something where God did something like that for you. And he's going to do it again. But go back to these stories. Okay, older sibling syndrome. This is cool. I really like this. Say to those, strengthen the weak hands and make firm the feeble knees. Say to those who have an anxious heart, be strong, fear not. Behold, your God will come with vengeance, with the recompense of God. He will come and save you. The older brother, the older sibling syndrome. Who is you're the oldest one, right? You're the oldest one. Actually, you're the oldest one as well. Yeah. And then we have the babies. I have a younger sister, but there is a responsibility, you know, there. And there is also like a lot of safety hiding behind your older sibling in situations, especially when we were kids. You guys remember that. Now, For you who are the oldest, might be hard to understand. But think of, there was always somebody in your life, maybe your parent, maybe some older friend, somebody in school, somebody who would take care of you when you were afraid. This is the impression that God wants us to have here with Him. That not just that He has a solution, but He's bringing the cavalry. The only thing between the cavalry charging in to your fear, to your problem, guess who it is? It's you. Older sibling syndrome needs to teach us one thing: get out of the way when problems arise. Doesn't mean don't face them, doesn't mean don't challenge them, doesn't mean don't charge them, no. But look at the problem, whatever the problem is in your life, and know that cavalry is right on your shoulders, right there, ready to charge. And then go with it. God wants us to know that He is in our corner, not just as a moral support, but as an actual fists and kicks. And if we are not aware of that, very often we feel that we have an impotent God who doesn't do anything for us. But if you go, charge your problems with knowing that He is with you, and solutions are going to start coming, and things are going to start happening, and you will learn from this yet again that, oh yeah, He's not there just to kind of tuck you in. No, He's there to handle stuff. But the last one, I think, is the most important, the fearless by design. God gave us a spirit, not of fear, but of power and love and self-control. Now, before we get into it, I want to raise a question that I want us to talk a little bit, a question that Aaron brought up. So, how would you guys see a difference between anxiety and fear? What is the difference when you feel anxious about something and when you are afraid of something?
Those go hand in hand. I feel like anxiety is fueled by fear.
Anxiety is fueled by fear. Okay, cool. So pretty much fears come first, and then as a result of it, anxiety comes, and if fear persists, the anxiety grows. Thank you.
I was just thinking that anxiety is imaginary expectations that we put on ourselves or others.
Okay.
At least that's for me.
Okay. So anxiety is imaginary expectations that we put on us, and then they're burden us down. Okay, what about fear? What is a fear then?
I didn't think of that part.
Okay. Difference between fear and anxiety. What was on your mind when you asked that question? Huh? Okay. You said something about anxiety focusing us, helping us focus, where the fear is holding us back from focusing. But okay, the reason I wanted to bring that up in this context is because here's the thing. So the spirit of fear versus the spirit of power and love and self-control. Can you have the spirit of power and love and self-control and at the same time experience anxiety?
I think so.
You think so? Why?
Well, I mean, like, you can still do something and still be afraid of it.
High functioning fear.
Yeah.
Okay,
Because, like,
okay.
unless you understand what, like, if you don't see what you're afraid of, no, give me a second. How do I explain this? Like, let's say you're going to a job interview. You are terrified because, like, you don't know if you're going to get that job. You don't know if you're going to get rejected. You don't even know if you're going to get that job. Or if you are, like, what's your life going to, like, turn out to be? But you still have to do it anyway.
Okay, all right, okay. So essentially, the experience of anxiety or high-functioning fear does not have to be necessarily a negative experience. It could be just something that is utilizing the power and love and self-control into building something better. Now, oftentimes we are intimidated by a challenge that doesn't mean that we are driven by fear. We can be driven by, like anxiety could be, like stress is very often positive because it pushes you, you know, it focuses you. You know when you're angry, how focused you are on your anger? Oh my goodness, I love that. You know, it really feels good, you know, and I usually get, like when I fail at something, I get really angry. And that anger actually helps me. And I didn't fail this time. You know, this time it worked out because I was more focused through this anger. Now, anger can be also driven by fear. So my point over here is we have an opportunity to live fearlessly, not driven by the spirit of fear, but by the spirit of power and love and self-control. Nevertheless, this is what happens. At first glance, you can't see the difference in actions. Like if you're driven by fear of whatever issue you have to deal with, you'll feel anxiety. You'll start freaking out and shaking and everything that comes with it. Now, if you're driven by the power of as the spirit that God gives, the spirit of power and love and self-control, you might still you most likely will still experience anxiety. But that is just a response to external. You know, you give me an example of something that freaks you out right now. So give me an example of something that stresses you out right now. Somebody. Uh-huh.
I work in a sauce factory, so for the past couple of weeks I've been putting bottles on the conveyor belt.
Uh-huh.
You know, so something that keeps driving me is freaking out is that if I don't keep up with the bottle intake, they're gonna be waiting for me to put more bottles.
Okay.
You know, so that's something that has been raising my blood pressure.
So the stress of keeping up with the demands of the work, and if you fail, it's going to be bad. You'll have to work even harder and more. Like, I think this is something that all of us are kind of dealing with. This is especially with everything that's happening right now in our economy, how things are looking up for the next 6 months to a year. You know, are you going to make enough money to cover all of the bills that are ahead of you in the next year? Are you going to have enough savings for the festive season that is coming up? Are you going to be broke in January? Don't nod your head like that. No. I was listening to an interesting fiscal report from last year. Actually, what they say, a lot of people, there was $2.2 billion, I think, saved, gross savings that Americans accumulated during COVID time. That dropped by the beginning of 2023 to 500 million. That dropped by the end of August to $180 million. So Americans exhausted their saving accounts. And the default on retail credit cards, like Macy's or whatever, is all-time high. It wasn't this high since the 80s. So we might be in a very, very, very tight spot when it comes to economic outlook in the next 6 months. It's something to freak out. Now, the question is, how are you going to approach this potential economic downfall that's going to hit all of us? You can approach it with the spirit of fear and allowing this world to drive you, and because the spirit of fear is going to drive you to make bad decisions, to make compromises that you're not going to appreciate, to make unethical decisions because you're afraid. But the spirit of power and love and self-control are going to drive you, yes, to be anxious about what is going to happen, but you're going to find solutions that are going to reflect the power of God, that are going to be loving in its nature, and that are going to keep you acting in self-control when it comes to your values, when it comes to your character, when it comes to things that are intrinsically important to you. So, my challenge for you today, before we close this and have a prayer, is this. Analyze this week your life. Take the time. Don't be lazy. Like, seriously, don't just file this away and forget about it. Because if you do this, this is going to make a lot of difference in how next week is going to look like. Take the time this week to analyze your life and label your fears. Whether it's fear of future, fear for your health, for your relationships, for your school, whatever it is. Excuse me. But label your fears. And then apply these 3 principles we talked about, one by one, to those individual fears. And take 15 minutes every day. I don't ask much. I ask for 15 minutes every day. Just don't do it after 10 p.m. because then you're done. You know. But take 15 minutes of introspection and application. Introspection of analyzing your personal fears, and then application of these 3 basic solutions for your fears. Next week, we're going to continue our 9 to 5 session, and next week we're going to talk about 9 to 5 peace and balance. That is what I would like us to focus on. Essentially what it is how would it look like if you applied on a regular basis these 3 solutions we talked about. And on top of it, I'm going to pile up a few more solutions that will keep you going. Because the end of the year is going to get stressful. You'll see that. I'm telling you that ahead of time. You'll see. By the end of the year, there will be a lot of stress accumulated in the society. And we, as part of society, if we don't stem our life in the spirit of power and love and self-control, we're screwed. So I want to make sure you guys are prepared. So take the time this week, analyze your fears, apply solutions, and next week, for all of you who are here, I'm going to expect to hear some kind of a report. How is this working out? Okay? And then next week, we can build up on top of this experience. Excellent. Any questions? Lovely. Let's have a prayer. And then let's finish off those delicious pastry over there. Dear God, you offer us this spirit of power and love and self-control, and it's available to us only if we come to you and just take it. We don't even have to ask. It's already at our fingertips. We just have to grab it. So right now, these days that are ahead of us, I really ask you, help us be mindful and help us be honest with ourselves and admit to ourselves, put our toughness aside, put our fragileness aside, and help us face our fears and label them properly so we know what we are really afraid of. And then help us apply these principles that we find in your word. And allow your spirit to work this week on us and give us this spirit of power and love and self-control, and help us grow out of our fears and become bigger and greater and give you the glory for that. That's what we ask this morning. Guide us through this week. Help us do that. And be ready next time when we open your word to build upon this one. Amen. Thank you.